Welcome back to LaserNug. Today's a quick shot video. I'm going to give you my settings for 1/16 inch Rowmark. This is pretty nifty stuff. I hope you'll stick around. Being a quick shot video, in part one I'm just going to get you my settings for 1/16 Rowmark, and then in the second part of the video I'll explain to you a little more information or background and how I got to those settings and the things that I experienced while I was testing through finalizing my power, LPI, and speed. Let's get to the settings. So if you follow me into Lightburn, come down here to the bottom right to the library. If we come down my list, you'll see I've created one called Rowmark LaserMAX. That's the name of the product. I've made a separate category for 1/16 of an inch in thickness. My cut settings, 20 millimeters per second, 70% max power, 70% min. So far I haven't needed to drop that minimum power. It seems to cut fine at these settings. High air, as always, and that's my cut settings. If I drop down, click on engrave, my engrave settings, 500 millimeters per second, 30 and 30. Again, I haven't seen a need to have to drop that min power down. It's on fill mode, no air, and I've got it at 498 lines per inch. So give those a shot, see if they work well for you, and by all means, if you find settings that work a little bit better, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave them in the comments. Now let's get to a little background, and I'll tell you how I came up with my settings and what I experienced before I finalized these settings. So this is pretty interesting stuff. If you haven't tried it yet, I'd encourage you to give it a shot. It's a very practical, often used type of material, which I didn't realize. When you walk into offices and you see, a sign stuck on the wall that says washrooms this way, or an exit, or push or pull, or you see signs on bathroom walls, or titles or nameplates that are sitting on the wall outside of offices. Here so far, I've just been testing it out, making name tags so I can kind of organize my inventory across my shelving units. And there's just so many other uses. This stuff is called Rowmark, and what I understand is it's actually not called Rowmark. Rowmark is the company that makes it, and the other, I think, large competing company or competitor to Rowmark is a company called Lamacoid. But it's, from my understanding, it's the exact same type of material. It's just made by two different companies. The material that I'm using is called LaserMAX. And the good folks at Canadian Engraving Supply were kind enough to provide me their brochure on all of the different types, color combinations, and materials and thicknesses that you can pick up. And as you can see, it's pretty endless. Some of it's metallic, some of it's this plastic / acrylic type material. You can get red with white, black with white, all kinds of different color combinations. And they're all readily available, usually in, I think, 2 or 3 different thicknesses. And you can pick it up either just plain, or you can have them put 3M adhesive on the back for you. The sheets are always going to come protected with a sheet across it, so you can peel that off and it saves it from getting scratched. And it lasers really, really nicely. So I started off my testing just with the 1/16. I haven't finalized the 1/8 thickness yet, but when I do, I promise I'll pass it along to you in the future. I think I started with 10 or 15 or 20% power, and then I just kept my eye on it for that first engrave, and quite often I've got my hand right across the stop button just in case. And then I went from there. A few things that I found as I was adjusting both the LPI or the DPI, however you want to refer to it, my speed and my power settings for the engrave first, is I was trying to get a nice reasonable depth, for lack of better words. And I wanted to get a nice clean engrave. So as I was starting to adjust my settings, I noticed that on my engrave settings, I either wasn't getting very deep, and or as I was adjusting, I got a lot of white residue just spanned right across the engraving. Now the nice thing about this is it's pretty shiny. It's kind of a plastic acrylic mix of some sort. It's really easy to clean off. You don't need alcohol or, LA Awesome or anything. You just need a damp cloth. It comes right off very easily. It does engrave super clean. But what I was trying to find was two things. I wanted a deeper engrave on the lettering, and I wanted to see if I could get a setting where I wasn't getting all that residue that I had to clean off. And that's what I was fortunate enough to find out with the settings I gave you. It should engrave cleanly with virtually no dust when you're done. You may still want to wipe it with a damp cloth, but it wipes right off either way. The setting for the depth started out fine. And as you can see, you've got very clearly defined engraved letters here. And you can't get this on camera, but if you use your fingernail and scrape across it, it is engraved, but it's a very, very shallow engrave. And I wanted something just a little deeper because I'm not sure what the product somebody may purchase from me is going to be used for, but I don't want it to be able to be rubbed off over time. So I kept working on those settings until I got a much deeper engrave. My cut settings, that took a little more time for me. What I found as I continued to adjust is if your power and your speed combination is too strong, so to speak, as in too low a speed and or too high a power, you'll get a clean cut. But you'll find that if you look really closely under the magnifying glass, you'll see that the edge of the material got kind of lifted a bit. Nice clean cutout, but when you look across it, there's kind of a lift on the end, and I wanted something a little cleaner, so I kept working on it. Although a lot of these cuts probably look clean to you, a couple of them aren't. And what I could tell was happening when I look under the magnifying glass is the settings that didn't work as well, I would find almost little fiber chips inside the cut or along the edge of the material in here. And that kind of told me or indicated to me, at least in my inexperience, that I needed to go a little further with those settings because I wanted a nice clean cutout with no material or debris left in the cut. And that's where my cut settings ended up. I'm going to make another sign for you because I've got to put something on the shelf behind me. So let's do that right now. And I'll show you how I put it together and I'll let you see it engrave. All right, back in Lightburn, I'm just going to make a simple tag for one of my other shelves where I've got some of my boxes. So you folks have probably noticed it's getting a little disorganized in here, so I'm going to have to spend some time on it. The more inventory I'm bringing in or products, I'm running out of space in my tiny little garage. So I'm just going to name this, and I'm going to name it Combi 1, just what we call one of our boxes. I'm going to come back over to the left side, grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to throw a rectangle around it. Okay, take my select tool, grab my combi, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, we'll place her in here. I am going to highlight from the bottom left up, and I just want to come up to the top here, and I want to first of all align things vertically, and then I want to also align them horizontally. Okay, great. I also think, just in case I want to screw this into the cabinet at some point, I'm just going to put two little cut holes in here as well. I'm going to come over to the left, grab my circle, and I'm going to press shift, and I'm going to make a tiny circle. Let me just make this a little bigger for everybody. Click my select, grab my circle. I don't need it that big, I'm just going to make it a little smaller. And I am also going to duplicate this. Now I have two of them. I'm going to grab one, I'm going to move him over here. So I'm just going to cut these small holes in case I ever want to screw this into the shelf. I'm going to grab the inside parts here and I just want to align them horizontally again. Okay, I'm in good shape. My outside perimeter is going to be my cut line. So I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to come down and I'm going to make that a red layer. Okay, I've assigned my red layer to the cut. I also want to cut these little wee circles, so I will also assign them red. There we go. Now I'm going to group everything. I'm going to come down to my library. I'm going to look down my Rowmark library. I see under 1/16 I have an engrave and a cut setting. I've got my red layer highlighted, so I'm going to click on my cut and I'm going to come here to the right and I'm going to click assign. Now I'm going to come up, I'm going to highlight my fill setting, and I'm going to come down, highlight the engrave under Rowmark, and I'm going to click assign. So I should be good to go. I'm going to click it over here. I just want to check I'm on user origin. I have my origin set to the top left, and you'll see over here in the picture I have my little green dot there. Everything looks good. I think I'm good to go. Let's cut some Rowmark. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to set the origin here and frame the piece. Yep, lots of room. So we're good to go. Let me autofocus. Okay. Let's burn some Rowmark. Nice clean cut, and you can see there's a tiny bit of white dust, but that's as clean as it comes. That's all you need to do to clean up. Little rag, wipe it off, and she's ready to be stuck. One more step towards organization. So that's a wrap for today. So just one last note, you may or may not want to use a mask when burning this Rowmark or Lamicoid. I'd check with your supplier as to whether you need to or whether there's any type of fumes that are coming off it that need to be vetted. Thanks for sticking around today. I hope it was helpful. Give it a shot, see if you like it, and if you find any differences or you find better settings, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Have a great week. Please be kind to one another. And I'll see you again right here. I'm Gord Potter, and you've been watching LaserNug. Cheers.